Good morning everybody, welcome to Friday's edition of Indycar. My name is Gordon Ross, I'm broadcasting from Bearsden this morning. And the subject this morning is the news that a North Lanarkshire council is planning to offer basically food supply for children during the school holidays. It's emerged today that the Labour-controlled North Lanarkshire Council is so concerned about school holiday hunger that they're actually proposing to feed children, to feed children at the local school to prevent them from going hungry through the holiday period. It seems that many of the pupils' parents in these highly deprived areas of central Scotland rely heavily on school meals in order to provide the nutrition that their children need, and that during the holiday periods they often go without food themselves in order to make sure that their children eat. But when teachers are reporting that children are coming back from holiday malnourished and unable to work at school, then you know there's something far wrong. So today I wanted to ask a question. Will those people who live in North Lanarkshire, who still adhere to the Union Jack waving and the British nationalism that is rampant in some parts of North Lanarkshire, will they still be cheering and waving their flags for royal weddings when their children are suffering malnutrition? Do they not see the connection between what's happening in their local area and the British state? Even the Labour Party itself, for something like 80 years in Scotland, has failed to halt the spread of deprivation across central Scotland, particularly after the 1980s, when the Conservative government did so much to bring about the end of steel making and coal mining in North Lanarkshire, the two central industries which kept these communities alive and kept people in work and able to pay their bills and able to feed their children. Having worked in in North Lanarkshire myself on a couple of occasions as a volunteer, working in the community and dealing with deprived children, and also looking at ways of finding them work and training, I know full well how bad things are, or how bad they were in North Lanarkshire, but I was appalled this morning to discover that things have got worse. This is what British nationalism is about. It's about having no control whatsoever over the local economy. It's about having no control over the deindustrialisation of the heartlands of Scotland. It's about having no control over what the Tories are doing. And it's about having a Labour opposition in London which abstains on things like cutting welfare. It abstains on all kinds of cuts that have actually caused this poverty in the first place, and are causing these children to be malnourished, to go hungry during the holiday periods. Now, holiday periods are supposed to be a time for fun and enjoyment for kids who are out of school for a few days, to rest up, play with their friends. It's not a time for them to be starving, it's not a time for them to be going hungry, and it should never be like this. This is the 21st century. Scotland is one of the wealthiest nations in Western Europe, or it should be, if it wasn't having its wealth siphoned away southwards. These children and their families shouldn't be in poverty. Their families should be working. Their families should have good jobs. Their parents, their fathers, their mothers should be working in new green industries. But these new green industries are not happening. In fact, no industries seem to be happening in some of these areas at all. They've been forgotten. I also know that there are areas of North Ayrshire which are in a similar state, having lived and worked there for years as well. There are places in Scotland which are backwaters now, places where there's no work, where people live on benefits, and any cut to benefits whatsoever, however small it might be, means people going without food or going without heating during the winter time. And I'm hoping that the show today, which is just on this single subject, will get people to think a little bit more about their traditions of feeling British, their traditions of feeling Scottish, and also get them to realise what their future will be if they remain in the United Kingdom. And this is the problem. If they remain in the United Kingdom, this situation will not change. It will get steadily worse and worse and worse, because the Tories are not the slightest bit interested in poverty in Scotland. They will do nothing about it. The Labour Party has come too late to this. They've now decided they want to do something about it, which is laudable, and I commend them for doing this. It's a great idea to try and help these children, these families through the schools, but they shouldn't need to do it, and that is the point. If the Labour Party had done more in its 80 years to prevent this kind of deprivation in the first place, and to make sure these industries were attracted to the area, that new industries were built and that jobs and training were provided, these things would not be happening. But sadly, areas like North Lanarkshire are in the doldrums. There's work in other places, but not in North Lanarkshire, and people are stuck in a spiral of depression, despair and poverty, and their children are caught up in this whirlpool. The fact that they're not being fed is a national scandal. It's a shame for Scotland. We should be ashamed that this is happening. I feel very strongly today that I want to reach out to people who normally would support the United Kingdom, who normally see themselves as British and see themselves as subjects of the Queen. Those people are all Scots as well. But these are the people who are being directly affected by this. It's their children who are starving. It's themselves that are going without food in order that their children can eat. It's themselves that are going without food in order to put the heating on during the winter time. It's their benefits that are cut. It's them who are being sanctioned. And yet they still can't seem to see the connection between the poverty they live in and the country which is ruling them from 400 miles away, which has no connection to them whatsoever and zero sympathy for them or their situation. So I just wanted to say to those people today, your poverty is not your fault. Your poverty is the fault of the London government. It's the fault of the Labour Party in Westminster for not standing up to the London government. And neither of the parties in Westminster will lift a finger to really do anything about this. The fact that the Labour Party in North Lanarkshire is now acting when it's too late, they're bolting the door after the horse is gone. The problem is here. It's now. It's not going to go away, and it's going to get worse. And if you think for 1 minute that Brexit is going to make your life better in North Lanarkshire, then I'm afraid you're very sadly mistaken. Brexit is going to make Lanarkshire's plight even worse than it is at the moment, because more jobs will be lost through Brexit. More industries will close down. More small companies which feed into the supply chain will shut down. Shops will close. Prices will go up. This situation is set to get worse, and the poorest people in Scotland will be the first ones to suffer. And the poorest people in Scotland are also sometimes the very same people who support the Union and wave their Union Jacks when the royal family come to visit. And I just wanted to ask them, do you think it's really worth it anymore to be waving Union flags and voting for the Labour Party or voting for the Conservative Party? Is it really worth your children's lives doing that? Don't you think you could have a better future if Scotland ran itself? Don't you think the jobs would be there if we could stay in the European Union, or at the very least get our own trade deal with the European Union? And don't you think that your children deserve a better future than they have at the moment? I'm very sad today for Scotland that it's come to this, that a council in the Scottish Central Belt is having to provide food for children during school holidays. It is a national scandal, and I think it's time that the people who have been waving these Union flags and living in poverty for so many years, it's time they woke up and joined the campaign, joined the movement to free Scotland from Westminster rule and to bring jobs back to places like North Lanarkshire, to bring jobs back to places like North Ayrshire and other parts of Scotland Central Belt which used to be industrial and which are now sadly just quiet backwaters, wastelands with council estates full of people with no jobs and no hope. It's time that changed, and it's time those people had a look at the reality of their lives and really examined what it is they want for themselves and their families. Do they want this to continue? Do they really want their children having to be fed from feeding stations during the school holidays in the 21st century? Is that right? Does that feel right to you? Because it doesn't feel right to me. Bye for now.